When I travel through Thailand, I see so many temples. I'm impressed by the art, but I didn't really understand the deeper meaning behind it until I met a Buddhist who explained to me what Buddhism is really about. And it surprised me how close to life and reality it is. I didn't expect this from a religion. I traveled to different cities, Bangkok, Chiang Mai and Ayutthaya, to visit the biggest and most famous temples in Thailand, with the intention to learn more about Buddhism and in which way it impacts and leads people's lives. Join me on my journey. My temple journey started off in Bangkok, Thailand. Entering the Grand Palace in Bangkok, I saw all these shining statues of the Buddhas, all the temples and small pavilions, and the detailed mural paintings. I went there with a girl from the US that I met in my hostel. Everything was so beautifully built, with so much attention to little details. Wandering around the Grand Palace in Bangkok, you also can't miss the yakshas, or guardians, of the temples. Their faces have very intense expressions, as if they are ready to jump into action at any moment to protect the palace. Their bodies are muscular and well-defined, decorated in gold, red and blue. And there were so many tourists because it was high season, so it was a little crowded, but of course, I know, I'm a tourist too. And everybody wants to enjoy the temples. The most famous site of the Grand Palace is the Emerald Buddha. It is a green statue of a meditating Buddha on a high throne, and it's considered to be the most sacred Buddha of all Thailand. I don't have any videos of the Emerald Buddha because it is considered disrespectful to take pictures and videos. People walk silently into the temple, sit down facing the Buddha, and say their prayers. In Thailand, it's normal that when you're in a temple, you see a group of monks who silently walk in rows into the temples. And apart from the Emerald Buddha, there is another palace covered with small green and gold mosaics and long columns. It's the palace library and should keep the Buddha's most sacred scriptures safe. At this point, I understood how important the worship of the Buddha is for Thai people. I mean, the Grand Palace is an unbelievable masterpiece, yet the concept of Buddhism was very abstract for me. What is it exactly about? On the next day, a girl that I met in the hostel and I decided to sign up for a guided tour to the historic city of Ayutthaya, to dive a little deeper into Buddhism with the help of a local guide. It's always better to have someone local explaining the culture than just to read a Wikipedia article about it. Our guide was a Buddhist, and let me tell you, he opened up a whole new perspective on Buddhism for me. During the tour, I of course used the chance to ask some questions about how Buddhists live. The guide explained that in Buddhism there are 3 marks of existence: impermanence, anicca, suffering or unsatisfactoriness, dukkha, and non-self, called anatta. Firstly, impermanence, called anicca, reminding ourselves of this makes adapting easier because there is simply no other way. Everything is changing all the time. Nothing is forever. No bad things and also no good things. Secondly, life is suffering or unsatisfactoriness, called dukkha. For me, this was so interesting because it's the opposite of what we believe in the Western world, that you should make your life nice and comfortable and convenient. But Buddhism says life is not supposed to be easy and comfortable. Life is challenging us at all times. And thirdly, the idea of non-self in Buddhism teaches that we're not as separate or fixed as we might think. Instead of seeing ourselves as completely independent beings, we understand that we're connected to everything around us. And I mean not only to other humans, but also to animals. Everybody who has a pet knows this. And also to plants, to trees, to every aspect of life. Our sense of who we are is always changing and heavily influenced by our relationships and experiences. More about it in a second. The historic city of Ayutthaya, located just a little north of Bangkok, it was about 1 hour drive, is famous for its archaeological ruins. On our tour, we walked through the ruins, which consist of ancient temples, palaces, and long towers from stones. Some palaces are not even, and I asked the tour guide, and he explained that this is because the ground has moved after heavy rainfalls, since the temples were built in 1400. Ayutthaya was once a thriving kingdom, but it had its downfall when it was invaded by the Burmese in the 18th century. So unfortunately, some of the Buddhas got destroyed. Coming back to the philosophy. So we know now that according to Buddhism, life is suffering. As we said, dukkha is the word for suffering, and this suffering can manifest in emotional suffering, but also in physical suffering, like a disease. What is the practical solution to end the suffering? Or should we just keep suffering until the end of our lives? In the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, it is explained that suffering comes from craving and attachment. We crave a better car, a better place to live, a better body, we crave food and clothes, and all this craving and not getting it causes suffering. Even when you get what you're craving, you may feel satisfied for a moment, but this feeling of satisfaction passes very quickly and is replaced by another craving. The way to freedom of suffering, according to Buddhism, is letting go of craving and attachment. I know it's easy to say it, but not as easy to actually do it. I love Buddhism for its clarity and practicability because there is something called the Eightfold Path to End Suffering, which gives very practical steps on how to exactly end the suffering. So let's go through them. Number 1 of the Eightfold Path is right thought, which is about having the right motivation for life and striving towards non-violence. The second one is right speech. Be careful with the words you speak. Your choice of words influences your view of reality and can manifest different things into your life. Number 3, right action. It's not only about the thoughts you think, but also about the actions you take. Act consciously and in a way that is beneficial for the world. Number 4. Right livelihood is about choosing ways to earn money that are ethically acceptable. For example, not trading with weapons, living beings, or liquor. Number 5. Right effort reminds us that personal transformation requires effort. We need to be attentive when bad energy or states arise in us. For example, when we get very angry at somebody. It requires effort to observe it and then release it in a way that keeps our environment in harmony and to avoid any violence against anybody. And also against yourself. Like, you should be kind to everybody and you should also be kind to yourself. Number 6, right view. Buddhists believe in rebirth. All your actions have consequences, according to the law of cause and effect. These effects can be passed on to later lives. So death is not the end. Knowing this, you need to be careful with every action you take, because everything in our lives and on this world is interconnected and will come back to you in some way. Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe in 1 month, in 1 year, or in your next life. Number 7, right mindfulness. There should be a power inside us that is observing our thoughts, emotions, and behavior without judgment. It means being present in each moment. And finally, number 8, right concentration, trains our mind to focus our attention through practices like meditation. Actually, when you are in Thailand, you can book retreats where you spend a couple of days with a monk and just take part in his everyday life, doing meditation, studies, and so on. Right concentration is about keeping an inner stability and calm in the ocean and jungle of life where things might not work out, but we have our inner stability and thus can navigate through anything that life throws at us. These rules sound very strict, I know, but Buddhism is not like that. It's not necessary to give up your life straight away and become a monk in Thailand or India. Buddhism encourages you to do what works for you. It highlights that there is no one way to enlightenment. Everybody should do what is possible and accessible for them right now, in your life right now. Buddhism is very respectful to other point of views. It says every religion has its own value and right to exist. Buddhism doesn't claim to be the only truth on this world. And what I also appreciate is that one of the central principles of Buddhism is non-judgmental acceptance. Anybody can be as they wish to be, as long as they don't harm anybody. And to make it complete, there are 5 more precepts to follow in life. These are kind of ethical guidelines, which include not killing anybody, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxication, for example by using drugs or alcohol. And as I said, you don't need to be radical. Do what works for you. Buddhism is about personal development and not about following strict rules that an authority has given to you. Our tour guide said, it's better to do a little bit every day than trying to force a big change on one day and then not having the power and discipline to do it on the next day. For me, Buddhism is a philosophy or a set of values to help you live your life in more peace and calmness and less suffering. Especially the principle of using your words and thoughts wisely is so important. I think if we talk less, we may understand each other even more, because we would choose our words wisely and thus communicate more clearly and thoughtfully. I hope I could give you a little insight into what I learned about Buddhism. Please feel free to add anything that is important or just comes to your mind. I would love to hear from Buddhists and from non-Buddhists. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. In this way you would support my work so that I can produce more videos for you. I send you lots of love and see you in the next one. Bye bye.